Hey gang, it's Rob from ITMastersKey.com, and my job is to help each and every one of you guys get a rewarding tech career. In this video, we're gonna go over everything a beginner should know. So first thing I want to tell you is, for some reason, beginner is always translated to easy. Beginner is always correlated to, oh, this is gonna be no big deal. Well, let me put something in perspective for you. How easy do you think beginner bull riding is? Not too easy, right? It's probably very difficult. So you just got to understand that we all have to begin at a certain point. I'll promise you by the end of this video, you're going to learn something that you did not know. You're going to learn something that you need to know no matter where you are in your journey. So, as you already know, I'm Rob, the founder of the Zero to IT Hero program, a program that's helping people just like you transition into tech. So, one of the best ways to know if tech is for you, one of the best ways to see if you really understand what's going on or the things that you need to understand that are going on is a certification called the ITF Plus, right? So that stands for IT Fundamentals. So the ITF Plus is under a vendor called CompTIA. CompTIA, as of today, is the most popular IT certification organization and is recognized around the globe, right? Now, unlike a lot of degrees, unlike a lot of these weird colleges, this is actually recognized. People know what this is. People in the industry respect the CompTIA brand, right? Now, this is for beginners. This is foundational, right? These skills are the things that you need to know. These skills are the things that you should know. All right, to kind of put it in better emphasis. So the ITF Plus is a baseline certification. It is a beginner certification. It is a foundational certification. So who is it for? It's for everybody. It is for anybody. It is for anybody that is interested in IT. Now, caveat, just so you know, this is not a employment ready certification. We'll talk about employment ready certifications further down the road, right? But this one right here is not an employment ready certification. This is the step before that. This is really no big investment required, not that much time required, but you'll learn a lot. And you will actually be able to see, okay, this is the direction I want my tech career to go in, or you'll be able to see, I don't think this is for me. Either way, you're going to learn. So the ITF Plus is a certification exam that's going to be 60 minutes long, and you'll get a maximum of 75 questions. So since it's a beginner exam, you probably think it's going to be stuff on there like, what is a computer? What's a printer? How do I turn my computer on? You couldn't be more wrong. Like, you're wrong as hell. Matter of fact, let me show you just all the stuff that's going to be in an exam. Let's hop over here. All right, gang. So I want to literally show you everything that's on this crazy exam. I want to show you everything that is on this ITF Plus, right? So like I told you before, it's 75 questions and you got 60 minutes to knock that stuff out. Now, according to this, you don't need any prior experience. But what I will say is, when we get into the job ready certifications, this right here is a perfect precursor to that. And my students have found that once they go ahead and grab this, those job ready certifications are a lot easier. So the things that you're going to break down in the actual exam is going to be IT concepts and terminology, infrastructure, application and software development, database fundamentals, and security. So you're probably saying, okay, this is too easy. This is too easy, right? But it's not, because it's literally hundreds of subdomain subtopics in each one of these domains. Okay. For example, in concepts and terminologies, you're going to go over binary, hexadecimal, decimal, and we're going to talk about different types of data types, whether it's integers, floats, Boolean. We're going to talk about inputs, outputs. Make sure that you understand the value of data, whether it's trademarks, copyrights, patents, digital products. We're also going to talk about common units of measure, all the way from a bit, all the way up to a petabyte. You probably don't know what a petabyte is. Go ahead and look it up. Processing speed, whether it's in megahertz, gigahertz. One of the big things is going to be the troubleshooting steps or methodology. So identifying a problem, establishing a theory of probable cause, test the theory, establish a plan of action, implement the solution, verify full system functionality, and last but not least, making sure that you document everything for the next person that's coming behind you, right? So no matter where you're at in your journey, if you're taking a CompTIA exam, that right there, those troubleshooting steps is pretty much the key to passing the exams. Next up is infrastructure. All the stuff I just said was in one domain. This is only the second domain, and it's 6 domains in here. So in the second domain, you're going to go over networking, peripheral devices, graphic devices, whether it's VGAs, HDMI. We'll talk about Bluetooth, talk about NFC, talk about RJ45s, a bunch of stuff. Also going to talk about different types of devices, how to install them, troubleshooting them. So printers, scanners, keyboards, cameras, speakers, plug and play stuff, IP-based peripherals, web-based configuration stuff. Also going to talk about the stuff that's inside your laptop and your PC. So RAM, motherboard, CPUs, difference between 32-bit stuff and 64-bit stuff, storage, cooling, network interface cards. Then we're going to dive into internet service types. So fiber optic, cable, DSL, satellite. What are the differences between all these things? Next up, we're going to talk about, or we're going to get into compare and contrast storage types. So volatile, non-volatile, flash drive, network area storage. Is your head spinning yet? So well, for everybody, it's easy. How easy did this shit sound to y'all? I don't know. It don't sound too easy to me, but you guys are geniuses, man. I just went to public school. All right. So compare and contrast common computing devices, mobile devices, tablets, laptops, workstations, servers, Internet of Things. Next, we're going to talk about networking concepts, different types of protocols, whether it's HTTPS, POP3. Let's talk about network communications, DNS, different device addresses, whether it's IP address, MAC address. Next up, we're going to talk about wireless networks, right? So different types of protocols, changing your service set identifier, encrypted versus unencrypted, different types of encryption, whether it's WEP, whether it's WPA2. That's just 2 domains so far. And I'm kind of summarizing this stuff. It's way more than this, actually. Application and software is the 3rd domain that you're going to be talking about. So that's going to be talking about disk management, interface between applications, memory management, device management, the difference between a mobile OS and a workstation OS. We also got to make sure that we know about operating systems, different file systems inside the operating systems, difference between Linux and Microsoft, difference between utilities, processors, that type of stuff. Also, you want to talk about the proper use and the uses for different types of software. So you got productivity software, you got collaboration software, you got business software, and all these do different things and serve different purposes. Also, application architecture is going to be in there and different types of delivery models. So do you want to have a 1-tier, 3-tier, hybrid? Do you want to have it locally installed? Do you want to do it over a cloud? How do you want to host this different type of stuff? Also, we're going to talk about configuring different browsers, private browsers, proxy settings, script blockers, caching, browser add-ons, extensions, all that kind of stuff. Next, we're going to learn how to compare and contrast different types of applications and their uses. So we're going to talk about licensings. We're going to talk about the best way to install different types of software, single platform, cross-platform, all that kind of stuff. Next up is going to be software and development concepts, right? So different types of programming languages, right? If you guys want to know about code, that's in here too. And this is supposedly a beginner certification. This is supposedly a certification that you can just go take and pass. Let me see it. I want to see you do it without studying, please. Like I said, don't have anybody on the internet tell you that this stuff is easy. Don't have anybody on the internet tell you that this stuff is just, oh, you just go in there and take it. You don't need it. Okay. And just remember, this is the first certification that my students get. It's the first certification that I recommend, because once you get this foundational stuff, you should be able to go whatever direction you want. Also, we're going to talk about organizational techniques and interpret logic. So logic components, where there's branching and looping. Then you can talk about the actual purpose of different programming concepts, whether it's identifiers, containers, or objects. Next up is going to be database fundamentals. What is a database? What's the purpose of a database? Different uses, flat file versus database, records, storage. And you're also going to compare and contrast various database structures. So structured versus semi-structured versus non-structured, relational databases. Then you're going to summarize the uses of the interfaces with the databases, right? So relational methods, database access methods, export, import, database dumps, backups, different types of things that you can do inside of your database. Last but not least, super important, this beginner cert also talks about security. Listen to all the stuff that we done talked about already. Then it dives into security too. Man. So summarize the CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Explain methods to secure devices and best practices. So securing mobile devices as well as physical devices that stay in one place, whether it's a PC, laptop, so on and so forth, and device best use practices to make sure that nobody does anything weird. Also, make sure that you know about behavioral security concepts. So how are people supposed to rock out on the internet? What's their expectations of privacy as opposed to on their home network or their work network? You want to make sure that people understand written policies and procedures, all that kind of stuff, and how to handle personal information. Next up, we want to talk about the AAA method and how to non-repudiate stuff. So we're going to talk about authentication, authorization, accounting, and the differences between those three things. Another thing that's great, that's awesome inside of this, is password best practices. How long should it be? How complex should it be? Can we use the same passwords? When do we have to reset them? So on and so forth. Another thing is encryption. Super important. What's the difference between ciphertext and plain text? Should we use a VPN or should we do something else? Should we do mobile applications or should we do, file level, disk level encryption, so on and so forth? Another super important thing is continuity, right? If something goes left, if something doesn't work right, how do we fix it? What's the proactive stuff that we can do? So we're going to talk about fault tolerance, replication, redundancy, critical data, how to back up stuff, having a contingency plan, and disaster recovery. So gang, look at all that stuff we just talked about. Let me hop back over here. So what's the verdict? We still think it's easy, or what are we thinking? Because I don't think it's easy at all, right? Now, good news is if you train, if you educate yourself, you keep on doing what you need to do, these things will become easy. But if you kind of start off the gate like, oh, this is easy, it's too easy for me, you're going to catch an L when you go take the exam, right? So I'm gonna take this even a step further. So right now we're about to jump into a practice test, right? So we'll go through some questions, go through the answers. I'll fully explain why the answer is the answer. Then moving forward, you can decide if this is the exam for you. Now, if you are crazy, if you have blurred vision, if you are dehydrated, if you didn't eat breakfast this morning, no, these are not the damn questions that's going to be on the exam, right? That would be cheating, and we don't do that. Winners win. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, gang. So for your viewing pleasure, I've created a practice test just for you guys. So if you see me looking off, it's because I am looking at the practice exam that I created, right? So the question pop up on the screen. I'll give you guys some time to actually think about it. Instead of multiple choice, I want you to dig deep down to see exactly what you know and how you would answer these questions on your own. We ready? Let's go ahead and get to it. You suspect that your computer has been affected with malware. Describe the steps you will take to identify and remove the malware. All right, gang, so we're back. So the first thing that you would do is to isolate, right? You want to isolate whatever device that is. You want to isolate wherever that is happening so it doesn't spread, right? You also want to make sure that you identify, right? You want to identify what is wrong. What's the virus? What is it? You can do that through an antivirus. You can do that through intrusion prevention systems. You can do that through a multitude of things, but you want to identify exactly what you're dealing with. Another thing is quarantine, right? So isolation and quarantine can be the same thing, right? Once you isolate, you want to make sure that you quarantine that device as well, right? Make sure that you quarantine that device, and then quarantine, if it's only a certain sector of the laptop or the phone or whatever, you want to make sure that you quarantine as much as possible. So quarantine the physical thing, and then try and quarantine it inside that software, try and quarantine it inside of whatever the actual problem is. If you kind of don't know what the malware is, I will make sure that our research is well, right? Make sure that our research is well to figure out what it is, what it usually does. Does it propagate? Does it try and take over admin permissions? What does this thing usually do, just to make sure that you're coming at it in the best way? Now, let's say that you run a system scan on the actual device. You run through the antivirus. For some reason, it's acting weird. For some reason, it's doing all types of crazy stuff. For some reason, you can't figure out if the device is okay now. You can't figure out if the virus is gone or not. Sometimes you got to do a full system restore, right? Maybe start from a different point before the virus was there, right? Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work. So sometimes you even do the system restore and the virus is still there. But it's one of those things that you can do if it seems like the antivirus, the scans and stuff aren't picking up the virus or aren't fixing the actual issue. Another thing is, make sure that before this even happens, that all your antivirus is patched. Make sure that all the updates that you need to run on your systems and your software is up to date. Why? Because if it's not up to date, there may be new viruses which come out all the time that your antivirus doesn't even know to scan for. It doesn't even know that that even exists, right? Another thing would be, if you got an antivirus, if you got a virus, if you got some malware, you can't figure out exactly where it came from, I would strongly advise, if it's something personal, that you change your account passwords, whether that's email, social media, so on and so forth, if you can't quite figure out where you got it from. And even on the actual enterprise network, if you're working at jobs, so on and so forth, I would recommend changing those passwords too. And also tell the person, hey man, if you know exactly how it happened, if they was on some weird websites or if they were on any of that type of stuff, I will make sure that you inform the user, hey, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. And you can go even deeper, because a lot of times there's paperwork that the person has to sign. There's different things that the person has to sign that they shouldn't be doing anything weird on the company time anyway. So if that's a thing, you can actually tell them that too. But the last thing I would say, even if they didn't do anything weird, it wasn't their job, it wasn't anything that they did, I would still educate the user. Just say, okay, next time this happens, or to prevent this happen, you can do X, Y, Z. Now, drop in the comments, let me know. This is the first question. Just say, number one question, let me know if that was your thought process. Let me know how you guys did. Let's get into the next one. So the last one was focused on security. This one I want to talk a little bit more about networking. So let's explain the purpose and benefits of subnetting a network. So the main purpose, the main advantage of subnetting is pretty much to divide up a large network into smaller networks that are a lot more manageable. So there's a couple different things that you can do, right? There's a couple different reasons why we want to do this, and I've written them down. So one of them is address management, right? So subnetting allows you to allocate the specific amount of IP addresses that you need for that network. So instead of just throwing a million IP addresses at a network that only needs 10, you make sure that you only allocate that many IP addresses, right? Also, you can improve security by subnetting, right? So you can actually figure out exactly, okay, there's some weird stuff going on this subnet, as opposed to, damn, the whole network is messed up. The whole network has malware. The whole network is weird, right? So, oh, I subnetted this network for the finance department. This is where it's happening at. Let me go over there and figure it out. Another thing is you can simplify traffic, whether it's routing, that type of stuff, and scalability as well. Scalability just means, you know, your ability to scale and to grow. And when you subnet, you can kind of tell exactly, okay, this is how many IP addresses I need. This is how many devices I can put on this network. Instead of looking at the big picture, it can make you be a lot more focused. Let's describe the concept of a firewall and how a firewall can contribute to network security. So long story short, a firewall is pretty much a device or software application that acts as a barrier in between something that's trusted and something that is not trusted, right? So it kind of uses a bunch of different things to make sure that something from the outside is safe to come inside, right? So a few different things that it does is it filters packets, right? So that's what I'm pretty much talking about. So packets come from all different types of places, and it wants to make sure that everything is cool. Just like all the Amazon packages that you get, all the different things that you get. If you had a firewall in front of your house, it would be a big, strong dude in front of your house, and he would literally be ripping open packages to look and see what was in there. And if it was cool, he would give it to you. If it wasn't, he would throw it in the trash, right? The next thing is something called stateful inspection, right? Excuse me. Stateful inspection. I just thought about something. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Stateful inspection, right? So stateful inspection is something that's a lot more intelligent, right? So it pretty much inspects the packet live right there and makes a decision right there just to make sure that everything is cool, as opposed to using preset protocols, preset boundaries, so on and so forth. It just triple checks live right there to make sure that things are cool for that stuff to come inside your network. Another good thing about firewalls is access control. Basically giving people that are supposed to have access, they'll have access. The people that shouldn't have access will never have access. That could help with intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, DMZ implementation, and DMZ is just a demilitarized zone, which pretty much means that we have a safe space for untrusted or weird people that we think we have to do business with or we have to interact with. They can go in the DMZ and we can do business with them, as opposed to having to come on our actual network. Last but not least, you can do proxying, network address translation, application layer filtering. Long story short, it makes things that much more safer, and it allows you as a security manager, as help desk person, as a server administrator, as a network engineer, as fill in the blank, to make things a lot more safer for you and everybody else that's on the network. All right, gang, so just so you guys won't feel left out, let's go ahead and jump into some multiple choice stuff, right? So which infrastructure component is responsible for assigning IP addresses dynamically to devices on the network? Would it be routers? Would it be switches, DHCP server, or a firewall? So a DHCP server is responsible for assigning IP addresses, right? So dynamically just means that something happens automatically, right? So the dynamic host configuration protocol, DHCP server, automatically assigns IP addresses to whatever devices you want to get assigned to, right? Now, a router is a device, a switch is a device, and a firewall, we already broke that down, right? So it says which infrastructure component is responsible for assigning IP addresses dynamically. Always remember, dynamically is another word for automatically, and a DHCP server does that. All right, now let's hop back into the fill in the blank questions, because I think these are going to be most beneficial for you, right? Because it's like I tell my guys and my girls in the Zero to IT Hero program, you got to have critical and analytical thinking. You got to know how to think for yourself, right? So let's get back into those type of questions. Explain the concept of network segmentation in the context of IT infrastructure security. Why is it important, and what are the potential benefits? All right, gang, so like we talked about earlier, right? Network segmentation allows you to isolate things, right? And when it comes to security, if you isolate and segment the network, it doesn't allow an attacker, weirdos, people that don't want to see you do good, it doesn't allow them to move around the network as freely, and also allows you to troubleshoot a lot easier to figure out, okay, where's this coming from? Where's the issue at? It's right here in this subnet because I networked and network segmented this network right here. Is easier to troubleshoot, easier to figure out, and easier to secure. All right, so access control in general, right, is a way to control access. So discretionary access, or DAC, allows owners to control access to their resources, while mandatory access control is more like classification levels, right, and enforces security policies and procedures. So discretionary access would be a way to set individual user permissions, while mandatory access control would be more on a top secret level, right? So everybody that has top secret access can access this. Everybody that has classified can access this. Make sense? Now discuss the concept of BYOD. Explain the security challenges associated with BYOD and provide strategies for mitigating these challenges. Now, this question might be hard just because you don't know what BYOD stands for, right? So on any CompTIA exam, including this one, we have to be very, very well versed in acronyms. BYOD stands for bring your own device. Bring your own laptop, bring your own cell phone, bring your own printer, bring whatever the hell you want to bring, and bring it to our network, right? So that's what BYOD is. BYOD can save a company money on devices, but it can also cost a company in security, breaches, that type of stuff. Because believe it or not, people do all types of weird things on their personal computers, and all that weird stuff can be brought on your network and mess everything up. So a lot of times what happens is, if a company has BYOD, they have some type of sandbox feature, they have some type of sandbox software, where it literally means that the company stuff runs in this sandbox. Whatever weird stuff, whatever other personal stuff you have on your laptop, it doesn't interfere with what's in this sandbox. It's pretty much walled off. It's a boundary, and only stuff that involves the company can be done inside of this sandbox. So gang, I would like to enjoy my Apple. So what is the price of admission for this wonderful training that I took time out of my day to give to you guys? Nothing much. Like this video, comment below on what type of training you will want me to do next. The students that are in the Zero to IT Hero program, make sure that right after this is going to be your practice final exam. Then right after that, go take the real thing and knock it out. If you like what I do, if you like what I presented, if you're looking to transition to IT, head over to itmasterkey.com and apply to the Zero to IT Hero program. You can do so by following what I just said, or there's a bunch of links down in the description. Also, I want you to make sure that you watch my last video, which is just as informative, just as helpful as this one. It should be popping up somewhere right now. So, according to old folklore, apple a day keeps the doctor away. I don't know if that's true. I just know that they're delicious. Other than that, I'll see you in class.